real quick, in your mind, as you walk through life, as you deal with situations, as we face different scenarios of life, we have this thing that happens in our mind. We have a inner dialogue that takes place in our mind. It's like that pseudo angel and demon conversation that happens on the shoulder that we see often on TVs happening, right? The thing we all experienced it, right? Uh, I believe that that's our inner battle of good and evil or negative for the sake of the conversation that takes place in our mind. And if unchecked, it can cause feelings like anxiety uh, or disappointment. And these things can turn into an emotional roller coaster. Things anger and disappointment take over, and that thing begins to develop into negative thought patterns. And it, and the key is replacing those feelings with feelings such as gratitude or unreasonable joy that can change the outcome of our thoughts and our thought patterns. So in this conversation tonight, we're going to walk through the process of creating a positive mindset or positive mind, positive thoughts. So with this thought-provoking panel that I got with me this evening, we're going to dive into this conversation, and so let's see where it takes us. All right, gentlemen. So our first question of the night, uh, excuse me, we're going to talk about the awareness portion part of the conversation, right? So my question is, what is one common thought that you at one time had to remove from your life to kind of change the course or the direction you were headed?
That I know a lot of stuff. There was a time, because I mean, all of us are plus 30. You know what I mean? All of us have spent more than 10 years in the military and, all been through high school, probably got some education up under our belt, then, traveled the world, that been around a lot of people. There was a time where I was like, man, I know a lot of stuff. You know what I mean? I'm just like, man, I know about this, and then I know about that. Then I started hanging around other brothers and started reading a little bit more and started listening to a little bit more podcasts. And I was like, bro, you don't know squat. You know what I mean? And I do. Do I know some things? Absolutely. I got some education. Yeah, all these things. But when I actually came to the understanding that, I heard it's some similar quote talking about you don't really know how much you don't know, or I know somebody would get it from me in the chat or something like that. I can't even think of it, but it talked about like how much information we really don't know. We think we know a lot of information, and that was kind of eye opening to me once that realization hit. Now I know, you growing up, you understand you don't understand certain things, but at some point in my life, I thought that I understood and knew a whole bunch of information, and um, when it actually dawned on me, and when it hit, and I had to face that ego, it was kind of like, it's kind of an humbling experience. But at the same time, it was very positive because I realized that because I don't know a lot of stuff, there's still a lot more stuff that I get the opportunity to learn over the next however many years I'm planning on being on this earth. So for me, one common thought that at one time I had to remove is that I know a lot of information.
For me, I would say that it was me against everybody else. It was me against the man. It was me against society. It was me against school. It was me against the police system and all these systems and whatnot. But in reality, it's me against me. So I had to come to the realization that, hey, I can continue to focus on what everybody else is doing and not doing, or I can do what I need to do for me to be in better situations, better circumstances, put myself around a better group of people so that I can move forward and not just be focused on what other people aren't or are doing and what society says I can and can't do, and do what it is that I'm here to do that's in control by my hands, or or whatnot. So I think it was to take the onus off of everybody else being responsible or being against me and put the onus of what is the man in the mirror doing to make my life better.
Yeah, mine's pretty similar to that. It's always about something or someone else doing something that's preventing me from getting to where I'm trying to get to. So whether it's the system, whether it's the proverbial man, whether it's anything that works against, anything that you can blame that prevents you from achieving whatever it is you're trying to achieve. That's to me that was huge. That was a big monumental shift that I had to undertake, and simply because of all of the same things that you just heard from these last two brothers. Like, can we look at something and say it's true? Sure, it's true, but that's irrelevant. Like, it's not that I can't prove that there are some instances or some underlying issues that exist that says, well, this right here works less favorably for you than it does for anybody else. But then the question that I had to face is, why is that my focus? Why is that my predominant thought before I go into doing anything? Because that sets the condition for the perceived failure that I may encounter. And then I've already made the excuse for that failure before I even began.
Mine's pretty much sound like y'all's if I try to explain it all the way down. But I'm gonna say it like Nick D said. You know, it was just pretty much being a pessimist. Uh, Everything was bad. Everything was going wrong, and everything was somebody's fault. You know, life just sucked. Coming from the the life I had growing up, you know, I think getting older helped me learn that just things happen. Don't mean life is bad. It's just sometimes things happen. Crazy people, not so smart people do not so smart things, you know, and sometimes that affects you, sometimes it don't. But it doesn't have to affect how I think or how I move and walk through life. So yeah, I'm with y'all. So I got a kind of like a B portion to this question, which is did you have something, Uncle? I saw you unmuted.
I did, but I don't know if he was going to get to it. I kind of was interested in where this mindset came from because it sounds like from what Roland and Coach was talking about, what we that buzzword we hear of victimhood mentality. You know what I mean? So I'm just like, where did y'all like where did that cause it seemed like, I know y'all, one from Michigan and one's from Georgia. Those two totally different parts of the state, you know what I mean, of the United States. And you guys had that, and there was something you guys had to get over. And the reason why I want to know, because like I'm wondering if we can trace back the root or the beginning of this, then we don't have to keep pushing it further for the next generation or whatever like this. So I just kind of want to know, where do y'all think that started from? And also, how many more people have had that same starting point and they still there? They're not you guys' age and they're not overcome that. So I'm just kind of interested in where do you guys think that started from?
I think the victim mindset, if we want to call it that, because I think it's much more. I think it starts with what you allow or your surroundings, because your surroundings, those that raise you, those that are around you, those that encourage you, those that you look up to. Sometimes even those that you look up to, they can be doing something positive, and they will twist it and say, "I'm here because of this," and anytime there's a but, anytime there's a caveat onto your production, it leads you to think a certain way. So when you start by listening to people who aren't healed, who aren't whole, then you have no choice but to take on some of their unhealthy behaviors and unhealthy tendencies. So you'll say, "Yeah, we made it, but look where we came from. We did this," but it's always a but there. And the but, we don't realize it, but the but is us dragging along a sense or a source of negativity and saying, "Yeah, we're positive," but we got that negativity strapped to our back like it's a badge of honor.
Yeah, I agree. So you know me. Um, a lot of times it comes from that thing where everything else that you learn came from, and that's generally in most cases your upbringing. It's what was instilled in you, it's what was taught, so forth and so on. Now, once you get beyond your developmental years, it's what is perpetuated in that society. And so I think, and I've been saying this for the longest, and I got it. Some people disagree, but I don't say things for people to agree. I say it for them to consider. When we try to take a subculture and make the subculture the culture, that's when it's going to become problematic. And a lot of times that's what ends up happening because I can't get, based upon the subculture that I'm a member of, because that's culture, it won't be allowed to be elevated at the level in which I think it should be elevated, then it's always somebody else's fault why the subculture can't move above the culture. So that becomes a perpetuation of the false narrative that is ingested in your head. And now you carry that with you through your adult years, and then you become the teacher of that information as well. So that's kind of to go along with what Roland was saying. That's kind of like my take. But I do want to say one thing. I greatly appreciate what you guys are doing. Lisa Keys, Nick D, greatly appreciate your contributions to the channel. And as we always say, that everything that's given to this channel is turned back into the channel for the resources that we provide. So thank you.
Yeah, I'm kind of right along the same line as both of you brothers. For me, it started with the things we've heard. We saw some of the things we were taught, and I think like anybody, your mindset is kind of built based one way or the other. But based upon what you've taught, what you've been around, what you've been exposed to growing up, what you've heard growing up, what you've been taught. Just in that aspect of the victim mindset. But when you talk about from the community aspect, you know, growing up, I tell people like people laugh, but either you was selling it or you was doing it in my neighborhood. Some of the smartest people that I knew that looked like us was on the corner with a bottle. Like that that was who they were. Like the ones who didn't make those choices somehow didn't seem as wise as the other ones, but they just made different choices. But you start seeing, I think for me, I grew up and I saw like a divide in the mindset of people. It was the ones who seemed like they were doing better, had this mindset that everyone who wasn't doing good or everyone who was drinking or doing whatever, uh you you chose it, or because you made bad choices in life and you this and you that. um and I just never looked at it that way when I was growing up. So you just kind of felt like it was a war zone, either mentally or physically, wherever you were. And I felt just like everybody else used to say around me, like it was orchestrated. And so it kind of, to me, it just developed there. Listening to everything I've heard and then seeing what I saw, I just felt like it was just some magic man standing up on high, looking down, making sure we didn't make it out. Right. Uh, so actually, my question was going to go to the other side of this. Right. We talk about where it come from. So my question is, how did it how did it affect you? How did that mindset or that thought that plagued you? How did it affect you that you knew you had to make a change?
So you talking about, are you referring to like the old mindset that I had before?
Yeah.
And how it affected me? I think, just having that mindset that I know a lot of stuff, that calls me. I'm a kind of a talker by nature. My mom's a talker, my dad's a talker. So I kind of picked that up as I grew up. And then, I'm also 49. So I'm from the age where when we met people, we had conversations. We went to the store and people talk to each other. I don't know about New York. I've heard it's different up there than it was kind of down in the South. So I don't want to speak for every part of the country, but in Virginia, that's kind of how things were, so um and then also when I was in high school, I had C's, D's, and F's and stuff like that. So, I was in the military, learned some stuff, got a couple of degrees, and then I thought that, my not that my stuff didn't stink, but in the sense that my stuff didn't stink and that I knew a whole bunch of information. Then I think it caused me in certain areas of my life to be a little bit more egotistical. I think it caused me to kind of shun other people's perspectives when they brought certain things to table if they didn't have quote unquote the same qualifications that I did, So I just think that, and I think sometimes those things were subtle. I don't think that they were always um, broadcasted very boldly for everybody to see, but I knew it. It's kind of like, I don't know, but I kind of knew it. So for me, that's kind of my stance on how it affected me or my mindset. I think it kind of made me a little egotistical when it came to certain things, and then even seeing other people's perspectives because they may or may not have been on my level of education or expertise.
I think it made me a miserable person to be around because I was consistently negative. Whatever the case was, I could find fault with whatever. It's like I could find what was wrong. Oh well, this is like this because I had information. Information with no hope leaves a miserable person, and what that person does is spread misery. And I think that's how I was, and I thought I was justified by it. So I was proud to be in that because it's like I got a lot of information, a lot of education, but when it comes to the uplifting of people, I looked at it differently because it's like, man, I got to do it this, and you got to do it this way, or else you're succumbing to the pressures of whomever's trying to control you or whatever. So I think I was very negative. I was very opinionated and didn't want to hear from anyone else who didn't think like I did because like, hey, what I need to hear from you for? You are a part of the problem. So I wasn't a listener. I didn't listen to what people had to say. I had my own opinion, and my opinion was the only one that mattered.
Sound like a Judge Judy clip. Um, it's I love that though because I can definitely not only agree with that, but I've experienced that as well. I think another thing it does is it puts an automatic ceiling on your potential. It prevents you from seeing, like, really reaching beyond anything that you can observe in your own environment, because at the end of the day you automatically have defeat written into your psychology. So now when it comes down to what I want to do, it's like, well, I would love to do that, but I'm not going to do that because the man is going to prevent me from getting there. Something's going to happen that prevents me from getting there, or the system won't allow people like me to make it through in order to. So it's like all of those things are working against you in the midst of the time frame in which you're trying to conceive the best version of yourself, not even knowing that the person that you're trying to conceive in your mind, you have not even met a person that looked like that yet.
Man, I get that. And the chat, I saw some things like created codependency, stunted growth, altered relationships. Man, all those things are true. Like, I'll say for me, all those things are true. That's how that mindset affected me as well. And everything else these brothers say, it, I was good with making friends, and I don't know what I keep doing.
Guess we ain't his friend. Now let me stop.
And I don't know what I'm doing that's making it do this, but I'm back. I'm in the game. I'm gonna be careful. Uh,
We got the ghost of Timothy's past up. Hey man, just go with it.
He said, "Move over."
yeah, y'all petty. Nah, I love my brother. Nah, but all of those things are true. I was good with making friends, but at the same time, like Rose say, it got to a point to where it was enough. Like they was like, hey, bro, you wrong. You angry about everything. Everything is wrong. Everything is like you have a happy thought about anything, and then in the next breath, I'll talk about the Bible. Like what? But so I'm with you all, and it created that imposter syndrome we've talked about before. It created that I don't belong in this space, or when good things will happen, or I had opportunities sometimes I'll turn it down. I'm like, nah, not me. I shouldn't be the one selected to do that. I shouldn't be the one to try that. Now somebody else would be better fit because I didn't want to get up there and fail, and then everybody see I was a fraud. So that's how it affected me. Um, y'all thoughts on anything that I said on any of the the comments brought up in the chat when we talked about codependency, stunning growth, or altered relationships. All right. Well, if not, let's move on. Our first point. So the first part of this conversation is going to be awareness. Awareness is when you catch the negative thought of the first moment that thought comes into your mind. You catch it, you recognize it, and then you begin to ask yourself questions about that thought, right? But that's the process to where we just create awareness. Is just knowing that this thought is coming up, and you can feel it getting ready to create negativity in your life. That's where we're starting at. Now that I have this awareness, my first question would be, within the process of changing the way we think, how would you advise someone to notice the negative thought before it fully develops?
Let me jump first because I know I'm ready. One thing that kind of gets under my skin is when people say, I'm just being real or I'm speaking reality. And what you do is you make your perceived reality, you take the negative slant of that reality instead of taking the wholeness of it. And so you say, I'm just looking at it from a realistic standpoint. And you take the stance of the worst thing that can happen, or you take what's going to happen bad or what has happened bad, instead of looking at it and say, man, there's a problem. So let me be solution based. Let me not focus on just the problem itself and how the problem is taking me away from or distracting me from the solution, but look at the problem as saying, man, okay, there's something there. Now it's something for me to work towards. I think we work towards the reality of negativity than we do positivity or a positive outcome at times. And it influences our mind, and it influences the outcome of what we're trying to do, and it stunts our growth.
So when I look at this question, it seems like there needs to be something done before this happens, right? So in the process of changing the way we think, how would I advise someone to notice the negative thoughts before it fully develops? I think for someone who just has diarrhea of the mouth and they just come out and say whatever they want to say, and it's just negative thought after negative thought, I think kind of like maybe what Roland was kind of sort of talking about, you're just kind of in that space. So you don't necessarily, you may not even know that this is negative talk. You know what I mean? And that's kind of why I'm saying that there may be a step or something that needs to be done before we even get here. Because if I'm noticing that Roland is always have something negative to say about every single thing, I'm just like, hey man, I'm thinking about going to get this degree. He's like, oh man, well, the man ain't gonna allow you to do it because we got these systems and all these different things. You're gonna be held down. Like, he not noticing the fact that he's being negative because that's the space that he's in. So I'm thinking that there needs to be some sort of self-reflection type of something that needs to be done ahead of time, even before I can get to the point to where I can say something to Roland about his negative thoughts. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of where I'm sitting at right now, is that there needs to be a little bit work done before I can start teaching or helping somebody or advising someone on how to notice a negative thought before it fully develops. Initially, if I had to just answer it at face value, I would say you need to start with self-reflection. You need to take a pause, 2 or 3 seconds pause before anything that comes out of your mouth. And is that whatever you're thinking, whatever that thought that you have in your head, is that valuable or positive to the conversation, or is it negative, or is it breaking down or dismantling of the conversation or whatever is going forward? So that's kind of where I want to sit at with that.
This is a loaded question, by the way. I just want to start off before. Um, there's two ways I look at this. First, I look at proactive versus reactive. If I'm dealing with a person who do not know whether or not they're having negative thoughts and are very inquisitive at whether or not their thoughts are negative, that's good. They're being more proactive, right? So now we sit down and we start having conversation about analyzing the thoughts that they're having. Where did those thoughts come from? Where did they first generate from? What is the outcome in your mind based upon those thoughts? But then you have the other side of it, which is reactive, right? You know that you're having negative thoughts, but you can't get control of them. And then you're coming and asking for advice on how to kind of like, gather those thoughts and bring them together. Conversations very similar, but just from a different perspective. What is the thing that stimulates those thoughts to happen in your mind when they come about? Like, what is normally going on when those thoughts are generated? I think a lot of times we confuse having a cynical mindset with a cynical perspective. They're not the same. A cynical mindset is bad because you're looking at the worst in everything. You're looking, it doesn't matter what it is, you're having a negative slant about that thing. A cynical perspective, however, is not bad because a cynical perspective allows you to analyze reality and come to the realization of what is true and what is not true. So if they're just have a cynical perspective, I'm not going to give them any advice against that. In fact, I would be the one to nurture it. Just make sure that you're consciously aware of when it happens and you are in control of it actually happening. Um, then I'll go back again and we'll talk more about, y'all know how I am, we'll talk about mindset. Because again, I really do believe that there's a lot of people out there that really think they're positive. They're not, right? It's like they just believe that they're positive because they put that title on themselves. But when you look at them, everything that they're talking about sounded just like what we started off with in the beginning: the man, somebody else, the system, whatever the case may be. So if I am being authentically positive, I am not necessarily talking about the man. I'm not talking about the system or anything else that has the potential to get in between me and the destination. I am speaking about the destination from the perspective of a hopeful outcome. So now that changes the perspective. Does the man exist? Maybe in your mind. Are there issues in the system? Absolutely. But do I need to focus on that? Absolutely not. So when my conversation is laced with something else or someone else sitting in a chair, sitting in an office that has power, and I believe they have that on me, and I'm blaming them before I even put forth the effort, or I am saying that I need to prove this wrong, I need to prove this, and I don't have to prove anything to anyone about nothing. The only person I need to prove something to is the person I see when I look in the mirror. So all of these conversations would take place under the umbrella of this very loaded question.
Man, y'all said a lot actually. Man, so and this one is just from personal experience, right? Like my point of awareness at one point, because I kind of hit it twice, because I had it early in my late teenage years, and then kind of relapsed into it as a young adult, and had to grab that awareness again because I just became comfortable thinking that way. But as when I was a teenager, a lot of negativity came to me, and it was the way I became aware. It was just like, man, I'm the cause of some of this stuff happening. Some of these things was happening because I was already prepared for it to go negative. I led into everything with my attitude first, with my anger first. Um, and I think at that point sometimes it can become too late. Not saying that that's the way you should recognize it, but I know some it's being honest with yourself. So kind of like when Onk said, self-reflection, it took me realizing that, man, I'm in a bad situation again because I led with my negative thoughts, with my negative feelings, instead of trying to rethink it out. And then as a young adult, it was the people around me. It took someone to actually tell me, like, when I say people were telling me, hey, you're negative, you're thinking negative all the time. I got tired of hearing that, and tired of feeling like nobody wanted to be around me because I was negative, and I had to realize I had to change something about the way I thought.
I think that we would be remiss to act like there aren't, as Coach keeps saying, situations are real. There are systems in place to do certain things of negativity. I think that not it's not the identification of those things, it's the focus on those things. When you focus on something, you give that thing power. Now you're giving it the power to do what you're trying to keep it from doing, because you identifying it over who you say has all the power. So now when we say, oh, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me, yeah, you will say that in one breath and then turn around and say, but in your actions. So I think that, yeah, you going to have a realistic scenario of what can happen, or you going to look at things and say, okay, this is everything in totality, but my focus should never be on that which is the damning factor. My focus should be on what am I doing in spite of, what am I doing? Not even looking at that. It's like running a race. If I'm running a race and I start to look back, you notice you start to slow down when you start to look back. All of us that's been, in any type of race, we've noticed that.
Yeah, man. Um, everything my brother just said. uh, let's run to the chats real quick. I wanted to bring up want to say this right. Pender Davis, Joanne, bring up her comment. She said, understanding the phases before or get to that point, something before has already been acknowledged. Uh, and I think the way she's saying it, understanding the phases of the thought process before it gets to the point that it's a full thought. Uh, so, mhm.
So yes, however, and I'm not rejecting anything she is saying, but I want to give the holistic picture of it. If I teach it to you, then you'll look for it. That's where we start to get into muddy waters. So for that person that I teach, those different phases of when negativity set in and so forth and so on, um, then I have to make sure that this person that I'm teaching it to, that they have the right mental stability, that they have a great foundation of mind, so that when I teach this, it's not something that they're constantly and consistently looking for. It's almost like, say you want to buy a brand new car, and hypothetically speaking, you just want to be a Dodge Ram. That's just what y'all want. And so y'all go in there and y'all look at Dodge Ram, and y'all search Dodge Ram online, where you just became hyper aware of Dodge Rams. So now when you leave home and you drive down the street, you're going to start noticing several Dodge Rams. The same thing works when it comes down to things like this. If I'm teaching you this thing, now you become aware of that thing. And now every time that happens, you're going to automatically pick it up and you're going to identify it. And it's going to be the only thing you really focus on, really. That's why I say that person has to have a great foundation when it comes down to their mindset, so it does not become their primary focus.
Oh, brothers, it was fair game. Like, and so that was actually the question I was going to ask when I read that is, what do you think about that process of teaching someone to think or look for something?
I think it's kind of led like Coach was saying. It's the same way we take an Apple product and a Samsung product, and if I work with Apple all the time, I'm like, oh, Apple is this, and I swear by it. And then I look at the other Samsung as a negative. It's because I allowed that to get in my mind, and now I meditated. I thought about that thing, and now after thinking about it, it's like, man, I develop an attitude about it, like it's superior. It's the same way with that negative thinking. You had it enter your brain. Now you pondered on it, you thought about it. Now it becomes your behavior, and you are so sold out for the thing, which is a negative thing, that it's right in your eyes. So when you're talking about phases of work, now you have to reintroduce some things and show them where these things were planted in their mindset so that they became fruits of negativity.
I didn't have anything on this one to add to the conversation. But at some point, I don't know if it's I had a question more about Honeybee Fly's comment. Coach did ask her to go a little bit more in detail. I haven't seen where she went into more detail. So I'll just kind of ask you guys if that's okay. I
Yeah,
don't want
let's bring it up. Mhm.
okay. Right there where it says some people have negative spirits. So if someone already, let's say, for I don't know if this is, I don't know what you guys believe or what you guys thoughts on this. So first of all, I would like to know what are your thoughts on this. Is it that some people just have a negative spirit? And if this is the case, then how do you handle it? How do you handle someone like this um when they start to speak that way, if they just have a negative spirit? Again, the first part of this is, do y'all believe that some people just have negative spirits? And then based off of that, if they do, if the answer is yes, then what happens when we, back to the other question, when we engage with them and they are coming out and speaking from this negative spirit? So
I think that when it comes to the negative spirit, per se, it's just like you work out. If you can't work out and be eating a bunch of chips and hot dogs and a bunch of junk food, I think it's the same spiritually. When you consistently feed yourself mess and you think you're gonna come out with something positive, you can't. When you watch a bunch of mess, you read a bunch of mess, you talk around a bunch of messy people, that affects you spiritually because you're not reading and feeding from what will enhance you in the spiritual nature. What you're doing is you're feeding yourself to your detriment. So everything that comes from that, the fruit of your eating, the fruit of your intake will show. It'll show in your negativity. It'll show in your behavior. It'll show in your thought process towards other people. Even if they have something positive you happen, you come with a but. So I think when people person has no source or sense of hope, but they are in a hopeless state, and that's all they have because that's all they've ever put into themselves.
Gaddy, I'm gonna need you to stop hitting that pause button on rolling too. Um,
Hey, you beat me to it. I was going to say something.
um, I do understand the question, but I'm very meticulous. Words mean things. And so universal law is below spiritual law, and so universal law includes the law of polarity, which is where we get positive and negative poles from. And a spirit, by that same token, is not positive or negative. A spirit is exactly what it was created to be. So I will start off by saying that. Now, like I said, I do understand what she is saying. There are some people who are just, they're so negative in their mindset that everything that comes out of them, it's kind of like what I was talking about previously, right? They have a cynical mindset, not a cynical perspective. And so everything that they see is the worst of everything. Oh, the only reason he got that job is because he was sucking up to their supervisor and stuff like that, right? So that's who that person is. I would say, and this is just me, the first thing is, instead of looking at that person, I look at me, because the thing I need to ask myself now is, how did I get in relationship with this person? What does my relationship with this person reveal about me? That's my first order of business. Because if I do not identify that, then only thing I'm going to do is put up guardrails and kind of remove myself out of that person's presence because I don't like them. but I'm going to create more relationships just like that. So again, first order of business is me. How did I allow myself to get in a relationship with a person with that type of mindset? Do I have that type of mindset as well? So now let me search myself to ensure that if not all or part of their mindset is part of my mindset. That's how we connected. That's how we attracted ourselves to one another. So now I start doing the work on me. And then I make sure I surround myself with people that I can actually learn from. I think a lot of times we are intimidated to learn from others simply because, I'm going back to what Garfield said previously, and I love the fact that you said it. And I think the phrase that you was looking for: the more I know, the more I realize that what I don't know, right? So that's one of the reasons why it's important to be in the company of people that you can learn something from. Some of us like to kind of put ourselves in a company of people to where we believe we're smarter than all of them, therefore we feel empowered. That reveals something in me. Every relationship that I find myself in is teaching me something about myself. That's why it's not good for me to get into a relationship and then say, "Oh, well, Roland and Gaddy and Garfield. I mean, they don't do this, they don't do that, they don't do this, they don't do that." Well, hold on, wait. Is it part of me the reason why they don't do that? Again, not saying that it is, but you have to ask the question first, right? Is it my fault that the reason why they don't do some things? Do I not give them things to do? Do I not ask them for their assistance or things of that nature? If I find any fault in what I do or how I'm presenting myself to a relationship, then own that fault. Don't blame them for nothing. I don't care if it's one thing out of 100 that you found. If you're guilty of one, own that one and work on that one.
Yeah, Coach. I think you and Roland just now was sharing networks, but now we heard you. You just did the robot on us
Did I
for a
really?
second.
Oh, that was intentional. I hit this button. I'm joking.
Oh, okay. um, man, I get that though. I really do because even today, like not today, but I took a second because I found myself thinking like, man, this dude does exactly the opposite of what I ask him to do every time, and it's starting to work my nerves, and I'm starting to get frustrated. I'm starting to get frustrated as soon as I see, people walk through the door because I'm like, here we go with this. But then it's like, have I allowed this behavior? Is that the reason why it's happening? Have I done what I needed to do to correct this, that, and the third? And so that takes a part. And so I'm with you because that was my thought today. Is like, and it's funny because right when I had that thought, never mind, I'm not gonna go there because just in case somebody watched this, I don't want to put nothing out there because people start doing the math and adding stuff up. Oh, but but
Mr. Gaddy, would you report to my office, please?
right, but but something happened and something was brought up to me that if I had not noticed it, it would have made me notice it right there. Like, oh, yep, this thing right here that was just implemented is telling me to examine myself and my behavior towards said person before doing anything else. So what am I modeling? What am I doing? You know, and so for me, like one of the key things, and we're gonna move on, but one of the key things for me is humbling ourselves because when I hear like, oh, some people don't know that they're negative, some people just believe that they're right, they're giving themselves that they coin themselves with that title of positive, and that's true. I've seen it. We all seen and know people like that. But then sometimes I stop and ask myself, am I that guy? Right? I could be that guy. Maybe I got y'all fooled in myself. I don't know. So I gotta take that humble moment and say it could be me. And so it's the buck starts right there. For my Bible thumpers, I think that's the same principle we're being taught when we're told, hey, take the mote out of your eye first, so you can see clear enough to take the beam out of your brother. Like we quick to start. Oh, you do this and you do. Hey, look at you first. And now after you've looked at you and you've taken the proper action, now look back at your brother. And what I find out for myself a lot of times is that when I address the beam that's in my eye, when I look back at my brother, I realize sometimes that example that I set of correcting myself was a ripple effect. And so now when I'm looking back at them, I don't see what I saw before. But hey, maybe the problem was me. Maybe I created an environment that allowed this. So I could stay there, but I'm not. And in chat, y'all are going live. I'm loving it. I'm loving it. Let's stay with it. But the next topic, the next point is going to be the challenge, which is reframing the thought, right? Uh, because once you have identified the negative thought, the next step is to challenge its validity and then reframe it. This is where you question the thoughts, truthfulness, and look for alternative or more positive explanations. Ask yourself a series of questions about the thought you just caught. Is this thought 100% true, or am I magnifying the negative? Right? It can be partially true because I think Coach addressed this earlier. It can be true, but I'm still magnifying the negative. And then ask yourself, hey, what's another way to look at this situation? So with that said, my question for this point is, would you agree that the validity of a thought justifies the negative emotions and or behavior that follows? And explain, please.
I do not. When we use terms, again, words mean things. When we use terms like justify, then that means that my thought must be governed by some type of, I just call it regulation in this particular sense, right? What is the governing thing that justifies the thought? And the thought is what stimulates the behavior, right? So if I'm just looking at thoughts creating emotions and going based upon that and saying that my emotions are justified because of my thought, I am a lawless person. But if I have something that governs my thoughts, and now because now the behavior happens, when I look at the behavior, I have now a metric to go back and compare the behavior to the governing thing of my thought. And if the behavior lines up with the governing thing of my thought, I now have means to have a conversation with somebody else because the behavior was warranted, as long as the behavior is not an immature expression of myself. It can be a mature expression of myself that is emotional, but it's not emotionally imbalanced, right? I can express myself emotionally as long as I'm justified by something that governs the thought. So now I have a right to come and have that conversation. But if I do not have that, there's no, like I said before, there's no need to have a conversation. Look at myself, analyze the thought that preceded the emotion, and see where that thought came from. If I do not know where that thought came from, if it came from something from my past, something I was taught, something I've seen growing up, whatever the case may be, then I might be causing a rift very unnecessarily.
I hear a lot of people talking about matching energy. So that's where this comes up with me, right? And here we're going. I already picked on Roland. I'm gonna slide over here and pick on Gaddy a little bit since we ain't had a whole full panel in a while. So I hear people all the time, hey, I'm just matching so-and-so's energy. So here's the situation. Gaddy comes up to me, we start having a conversation, and then Gaddy starts getting very disrespectful with his tone and the different things that's coming out of his face, right? So now
It's because you showed up with that hat on.
And it may be true. We are probably talking about a Cowboys and a Giants game, right? So he is saying some awful, nasty, hurtful things about the Cowboys, and I'm just saying. But yeah, so he's getting there. So I am valid in the fact that he is being disrespectful. So am I not justified to clap back to get at the same level or emotion or behavior as him? Now, do I agree with this? Absolutely not. But I do hear a lot of people always talking about where I'm just matching so and so's energy. If Gaddy come at me like this, I'm gonna get snazzy right back with him. So I don't know if that's more of a situational or more of just a thought to this, more so than a answer to the question. But I guess my question back would be, where does that line up? Because I hear a lot of people saying it. So I don't know if it's something that we need to come back to, maybe after Rolling goes or something. But, and like I said, I don't agree with it, but I know a lot of people who's always talking about matching other people's energy and stuff like that. And that's why I kind of wanted to highlight it and see if at some point we can talk about that a little bit.
Yes. Listen to me though. Listen to me.
I got you.
I say yes, not because I'm in agreement with the whole of it, but yes, because this speaks to the mindset of an immature person. This speaks to somebody who needs to do more work. So is it valid? Oh yeah, it's valid because of where you are. And that's why I know I can't have certain conversations with certain people. Because once it starts, you trying to clap back, you snapping your neck, you clapping your hands, and you doing all this, I understand we can't have this conversation because you're dealing in your feelings, you're dealing in your emotions, and you're not ready to actually have the conversation and look at it from a perspective of growth. So I say, yes, it's valid to you because of where you are. But is it valid to the whole, to the growth of the relationship of the person? No, it's not. I'm with Coach, 4 feet down if I get 4 with both of us. But to a mature person, no, this ain't valid because I'm expecting you to be better. I'm expecting you to be able to look and see where, hey, your emotions right now, you are losing yourself and going away from what governs you. And if you're saying what governs you is the same thing that governs me, you're absolutely wrong here. But for the immature person, yeah, stay there.
Listen, I'm kind of torn, right? Because y'all know how I operate. You know, I'm not finna argue with you if you're a grown man, right? If you're a grown woman, I'm gonna give you a couple of words back, and that's it. You know, hey, all right, chill, all right, watch your tone. You're a grown man, you know. I just believe, yeah, he must be a fool. I was gonna be petty and ask somebody to, to ask Nick D to put up Proverbs 18:6, but I'm not gonna do that. I'll just read it. Cause like it's funny, but it's not like his. It says a fool's lips enter into contentions, right? It's not that I'm not saying that it validates negative thoughts and behavior or anything like that, but a fool's lips enter into contention, and his mouth calleth for strokes. I told y'all about the laying on the hands. That's my ministry. On Thursdays though, not on Fridays, you know. but being funny, but not being funny. I'm not saying that the validity of the negative thought justifies all behaviors, right? But I do believe that sometimes we believe that positivity looks the same in every scenario, or that the positive outcome is going to come out the same way every single time. And I'm not telling nobody to go out there and just start popping people in their lips. I don't know what is going on with this camera. That is weird. I don't know what just happened either.
Poltergeist.
Got an internet gremlins going on over there, boy.
Hey, it hit you too earlier. Only person that's been safe so far has been Uncle Junior. Nah, but all jokes aside,
and don't jinx me.
Yeah, right. But all jokes aside, I'm not saying behave this way or behave that way or behave this way, but I think sometimes there's not a blanket. The camera, man. I mean, maybe I should have put her comment up first last time. See, she matching energy. That's what's happening. Cause I'm
You
joking. I'm
said you
joking.
was confused. Your car.
Man. But what do y'all think about that? Is it if if we say this scenario or someone's disrespectful, there's a blanket positive response to all forms of disrespect.
Yeah, well, see, that's that question. You're looking for an answer like
All right,
that,
let me take out
but you give a
disrespect.
question
Just
like that. No, I'm not saying take out disrespect, but you're gonna have to be more specific with disrespect because disrespect is a wide spectrum.
And
true, and everyone, and I think reason why I didn't get specific because everybody finds different things disrespectful. So I
Okay,
I might put out an example, and you might not find that disrespectful.
let me just respond. And how about that? I just respond. There are varying degrees of disrespect. If you just jaw jacking, I'm good. When I hit you with the okay, and then you keep talking, and I hit you with the okay again, then I'm telling you without saying so many words that "No, I'm done with this conversation. You can end. I don't care if you're my supervisor. Okay, okay, okay. That's it. And you'll notice they keep getting in there, elevating in succession. And if you keep going, hey man, I said okay. I don't know what more you want me to say. That's my response because I don't necessarily play in those fields. Now, if you go to the other side of disrespect, I say it all the time. You want to keep this version of me in front of you because this version is the one that's in pursuit of the Most High. But there was a version that preceded him, and that version, I do believe that he used to sit and have lunch with the devil. I'm trying to tell you. And you cross. I'm trying to tell you, you cross a certain threshold with that person. That person clap back. Now, this was before clapping was a thing, right? The get back was real, and it was different ways that you would get back. Different ways I would help you to learn that you need to get back to. It would first come verbally. If you didn't get it verbally because you're too slow in your thinking, then it will come in a more aggressive version. But this the person that you want to keep in front of you because this person is in pursuit of the most high and believes in healthy relationships. But this one right here is in a dormant state. But at any given point in time, if pressure gets to be too high, he can wake up. I don't want him to wake up, even when sometimes I have to go back and say, hey, go back to sleep. You need to stay asleep in this situation. I don't need no help. So that's what I would say. Generally, this one right here shows up only when a man is in a very disrespectful state and he's trying to flex his might. That's when this one generally shows up, right? It doesn't show up if it won't show up for a woman. I promise that right now. It won't show up at work. It won't. You see what I'm saying? Very limited is that situation. But this person that you see right now, this is the person that you want to keep before you because I'm always going to try to find the most balanced approach to solve any problem there is.
I like the dormant analogy. I really like the dormant. I think a lot of men walk around in that dormant state, especially dudes who have like gotten over some stuff and are living, on that straight and narrow life. You know what I mean? Like that joke is still there. Like, look, like you said, coach, just look, just keep me over here, just keep me in the box. And I don't know why people like to open up that box and peek inside, and I don't know why. Stay off the
Tupac
box.
said it best. Tupac say, "I ain't a killer, but don't push me."
Don't push me.
So, yeah, and all of us have come from somewhere, and we've been in immature states. And I think when you do mature, and you may not even be, none of us are fully mature, and that's what makes it a growth process. We understand what it's like when we see it, when someone is getting livid, when some of us is reacting a certain way. We understand it, and that's why you coach. I'm a coach. I okay you, and y'all know I used to have when it was around. I had me on a piece of paper. Okay, and then he's okay. I just put it up to the camera. Okay, because I'm not about to argue. Because why am I frustrating myself to prove a point that you're not listening to. And when you aren't listening, I'm not trying to prove anything to you. I don't have anything to prove to you. And the more you talk calmly, the more people elevate their conversation, not their conversation, but their tone. And that's where you know I'm not dealing with a mature individual right now. We can't really converse. So, okay.
I believe at that point you're dealing with a fool, and I just tell you what I think. At that. No, I'm joking. I'm joking. I'm leader. Uh, but yes, and I think there's a slight difference though between the 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 switch, right? Because especially going to work, like being in the military, being a soldier, and having people that outrank me has taught me a lot about, okay, in uniform it was Roger. I'll respond, yes, sir, tracking that, sir. Once at Roger. Roger was my word. That was my okay. That I ain't got nothing to Roger. It's easy to get that out, Raj. Because if I say anything more than Roger, and it might not even be Roger, it might just be Raj. Because if anything else come out, the rest of it's gonna follow right behind it. So I know Raj. Check Raj.
Who's hard?
Yeah,
Who's
I don't even
hard?
know how to say who.
Who's hard?
I can't let too many things come out because it's just gonna. So I definitely know how that feels. Uh, and so that's the part where I feel like I have to be careful. It's not to allow people to turn that version of me on. You know, there are some people that go out their way to be ignorant, and when I feel that, sometimes I realize I don't have to turn that switch on because it's just all. Because soon as they did the light just came on, and I just had to avoid the situation. Um, Ignorant, right? But whew, yeah,
You beat
let's
me
move
to it 'cause I
forward.
was typing that.
Huh?
I told Unc you beat me to it because I was typing that.
Uh, all right, let's go into this next portion. We're gonna call it a reframing the thought. What I'm gonna do here? I'm gonna read uh a series of statements or thoughts, right? And if you can, gentlemen, how would you reframe it after you've gone through your awareness, and you sat and you thought about it, you analyzed it? How would you reframe the thought? Uh, the first one is this meeting was horrible. They need to promote people who know how to convey information effectively. I have no idea what they want from me. I know it sounds vague, but
This is what I always talk about. There's the truth, there's what is true, there's facts, there's assumptions, there's opinions. Everybody has opinions. Every opinion isn't valid. What we need to understand, if your opinion isn't laced by some type of profession, most people need to keep their opinions to themselves. All of this is laced in opinion except for the last sentence. I have no idea what they want from me. But that too may also be an opinion, especially if you did your performance review. If you did a performance review, you know what they want from you. So now that becomes a lie. I'm
This
just saying.
sounds like that person I don't want to be around at work. I mean, in the scripture, the Bible tells Nehemiah pretty much you working with one hand, get a shovel, and then get his word. So if I keep busy with what I'm supposed to be doing and what he has for me to do, I ain't got time to be worried about what other people aren't doing. I'm too busy trying to do what I am supposed to do. When he talking about that review, they told me what I'm supposed to be doing. So if I'm worried about what they aren't doing and a lot of people worry about the higher ups all the time, and those are the people that I tend to stay away from because I'm trying to. I always tell people I bow in life. I stay in my lane. If I'm over in your lane, something wrong, and I try to stay in my lane, so I keep everything right here. And a lot of people like to be in other people's lane, and that's not where I like to reside.
I'm gonna follow directions on the next one, but for this one, what I want to do
Ain't
Man,
none of
I
y'all
am,
follow directions for the
man.
for the
I'm going
record.
to follow that. I'm going to follow directions. I just want to
I'm,
acknowledge the
I'm,
reality of the
Yeah.
statement.
I'm. I don't even respond to people like this, and I haven't for a long time. So right off the rip, I don't even know. I could come up with something, but right now I'm just like if all right. So I didn't got on. Me and Roland had our session. Me and Gaddy. So now we over here to coach. Me and Coach just come out of a John Maxwell meeting or whatever meeting we in, and he like, man, this meeting was horrible. They need to promote people who know how to convey information effectively. I have no idea what they want from me. All right, Coach. I mean, I really don't really know what else to say. I can engage, but because I don't think the way Coach thinks anymore, I don't I don't have anything else to say. So I'm probably not going to engage too much with Coach on this because I'm so far removed from this. Now, I am, but I'm not. Now, if I'm in the coaching session and I got my coaching hat on, then it'd be a little bit different. You know what I'm saying? But I just want to start off by saying I'm not even having a conversation with anybody about this. I mean, I might just nod and agree and be like, all right, you know what I mean? Or sometimes I'm like, well, what you gonna do about it? You know what I mean? Are you gonna go talk to the boss? You know what I mean? Are you gonna lead the meeting? Are you gonna ask the boss if maybe they can make these changes or adjustments? Me, that's kind of sort of where I'm at right now. Is if you got a problem, what are you doing to try to make things better? You know what I mean? Not just sit in these negative conversations that don't lead to anything effective or valuable. So that's kind of where I'm gonna sit at right now. And I'm definitely gonna have a better response for you on the next question.
So my response to this would be, first and foremost, this is a horrible meeting. Okay. What would you have liked to seen different in this meeting? What made it horrible to you, in your opinion? They need to promote people who know how to convey information effectively. Okay. How could that person have conveyed this information more effectively? I have no idea what they want from me. Okay, so let's go look at your performance measures and let's make sure that you have a clear understanding. And if because during performance measures, you should have had the opportunity to inject some things that you wanted to add to, right? If those measures aren't complete enough for you, what else would you add? That way you'll be crystal clear on not only what they want, but also what you're going to do on your own.
Now, I guess I got to answer it right too. And it depends on the relationship. If it's me, one of us on here, and we off to the side, and I'm looking at it, and you come like acting like this, and we have that relationship, I'm a little less saved than Coach. I'm gonna say, Ninja, can you do better? I'm gonna be straight up with you. I'm gonna be straight up because if we had that relationship, I gotta call you out on your bull. I gotta call you out on your immaturity. I gotta call you out so that not I can see it because I see it, but so you can see it. Because if we have that relationship, because I'm like, I expect better from you. You shouldn't be the complainer. You shouldn't be the person stirring up mess. So I got to call you out. Like, hey, we boys, we brothers. I'm gonna call you out just like that, and I'm gonna talk a little aggressive to you. So a little real.
Yeah. Unc said he wasn't going to answer, but he kind of gave my answer a little bit. Because if I'm going to reframe the thought, it'll be okay. Maybe I didn't enjoy this meeting. I didn't feel like I got enough information. But instead of I don't know what they want from me, all right, let me go back and sit with said supervisor and see what exactly were they trying to get from us out of this meeting. You know, what because I didn't get the clear guidelines from this meeting. And I do, and I agree with Coach. And maybe it depends on the field. I can't speak for everybody's job, but if you got your performance review, you know what your specific job description is, what your PD is, right? And because of that, I now can identify what my role is in this organization. Now let's go back and look at these notes from this meeting and see what I'm supposed to do. Because I think sometimes we don't never take account of who we are supposed to be, right? And that's key. That performance review tells me who I am supposed to be. Um, I am the supervisor of this department. So if that meeting talked a lot about Roland's department, my question is how is what I do affect how Roland does his job? So there I can identify. But the problem is I'm thinking because they didn't address me personally, I'm like, hey, bro, just so I'm right there. So when Onk said, "Hey, you gonna go speak with the supervisor and get clarified information," that's what I that's my reframing. Uh,
And I think Coach may have mentioned not necessarily about this, but the truth part of this. You know, we were talking about the meeting was horrible. Like all of these things could have very well been true. We've all been in the military. We've been into some horrible meetings, and we've been in places where people may, you know how in the military you get promoted on potential. So sometimes we get promoted and we're in a spot, but our level of information and maturity haven't necessarily caught up to it yet. But we're still in that position. So I think, you know, the reality of it is that you can still have positive thoughts, even though everything could be wrong or it could be the truth. And what I mean, maybe I'm trying to get it right, but when he talked about the meeting was horrible. That could have been a very true statement. You know what I mean? We've been in meetings where they've been, you know, very structured and organized, and then we've been meetings where they all over the place. This may have been at the bottom of tier, and it could be a true. You know what I mean? So it's also when you're having these conversations with people, I think sometimes I don't want to necessarily say acknowledge truth in it, but I think sometimes it's okay to, it may not be a bad thing to say, you know, like you said, yeah, maybe the meeting was horrible, but but how would you do it better? You know, kind of what Coach was saying. So I don't think that, I don't know, let me stop right there. But I think that, you know, these things can be true at the same time, and it can still be negative.
yeah. Let's go to the third thought. I'm gonna do one more thought, and then we're gonna jump down. Let's go to this third thought. I'm not going to apply for that position because I don't have enough experience, and I just recently obtained my qualifications, so I'll let somebody else apply for that.
All right. So the way I look at this, it may be a negative. It can be a negative, but it also could be a reality. You know what? I'm not going to apply for that position because I don't have enough experience. On the resume or on the job description, it says you need to have 5 years experience, where I only have 3, but I did really good at my job. And or either I may have just obtained my qualifications. So I think this could be a negative thing, but it also could just be reality. And maybe you just don't qualify. However, for the sake of turning this into a positive, you could say, hey, you know what? I'll apply for the position and we will just see what happens. You know what I mean? And you could just leave it at that, you know. And if you get the job, you do it. If you don't, you don't. You know what I mean? Because there are other people who have gotten jobs and they wasn't necessarily qualified. And one of the things that I've learned in hiring and just certain jobs and looking at certain job descriptions is sometimes a job description will say a certain thing, but then they were also willing to, there's some leeway in there. You know what I mean? Roland just got his qualification to be a chef, but he spent 20 years in the military as a cook. So yeah, he just got his qualification, but his experience may may have caught up and may be more of what I need. And I may see that once he come in for an interview. So again, I can definitely see how you can change this question and make it more positive. And that's kind of that's kind of where I want to sit at with that one.
I keep mine simple. I am going to apply for the position even though I don't have enough experience and I just recently attained my qualification.
Oh, yeah, it was a good one. Come on, coach.
Not for somebody else, like if somebody else came with this, I think, well, that's how my thought frame is. if someone came with this statement here, I think one, I'm noticing that this person may need a boost of confidence, and I may be that person to encourage them to, hey, I despite what you think about whatever, and sometimes you got to tackle your fears. Sometimes you got to just jump into it and let somebody else tell you no, because we limit ourselves by our mindset. So now, if I can help reframe that person's mindset to where they think, yeah, I can actually do it. I may have just got this, but it's fresh on my mind. I just got the qualifications. So that means that the experience is right there. I just need the push. And if I can give that person the push to catapult them to better, hey, that's why I'm there.
Hey, so that honeybee don't jump on me no more. She said, don't close your own door. And I'm right there. I'm right there. All jokes and love. But yeah, I'm right there. Don't close your own door. I, I've been hired into a position I didn't qualify for. Right, and if it's a in-house promotion job or something like that, let your work speak for itself. Let your character speak for it. That's why it's important to always show the best version of your character in the workplace, because when that position you wanted opens up and they post it, you know yeah, you may not have all the experience in the world, but as a hiring manager, I know I can trust you. I know I can get the best out of you. I know that you are coachable, you're trainable, and you got the qualification now. Okay, you know, and so that's why I said, so if it's an in-house job, I'm thinking about it like, you know what, they know what I do, they know what the work I've put in. I may not have what everybody else have, or I may not have the experience everybody else have, but I'm gonna go for it. You know, if it's a job outside that I don't know the people there, and it's just a new job and I'm applying for it, what they gonna do? Not respond? Like I never applied, so I'm gonna go ahead and and apply anyway. Because what is that gonna hurt? you what they say, you miss every shot you don't take. So I'm gonna go ahead and shoot. Uh, whew, our time has ran up on us. Listen, this is one part that I really want to get into in the action, or reinforcing the positive. All right, we'll go down to the last question in this part right here, because I got some preachers on the panel, and a brother who grew up with some holiness preachers, so what role do your beliefs play in the way you think and in your mindset?
I think that plays a major role because says that speaks to my moral character. That speaks to my values. That speaks my belief system says how I treat people, whether I'm doing them dirty, whether I'm encouraging them, whether I'm there to circumvent the system. I think that we've all seen things done that was kind of like shady, but I think my belief system says when it comes to dealing with people, when it comes to a positive mindset, I shouldn't be the person on the job sowing discord. I shouldn't be the person that's a naysayer when people want to advance. I should be the person encouraging, hey, do all you can, because simply because of that.
What role what role does your belief play? I think your beliefs play a major role in how in your beliefs. And what I mean by that is I think that your beliefs is what kind of controls your thoughts. And then your thoughts kind of dictate your attitudes, your behavior, and then eventually there's a manifestation that comes with all of that. So I think that the role that your beliefs play, your beliefs is those seeds, those are that principles, those founding whatever you have in your life, that dictates how you move and which controls, at the end of the day, your thoughts. You know what I mean? A lot of times we think based off of what we believe. So again, our thoughts and our beliefs is what's going to control or dictate our attitude about things, and then they're going to dictate our behaviors. And then, like I said again, then that's last thing is the manifestation of all of these things that we believe or that we thought. So I believe that what role do our beliefs play? I think that plays a huge role. One of the top roles in our lives, because that's where a lot of the thoughts are being made.
Yeah, I agree with all of this. I mean, at the end of the day, belief is the thing that um, connects you to the hope that you actually have. So, if my belief system is wavering in any shape, form, or fashion, then it's very impossible for me to achieve the thing that I'm hoping for. But the belief is not just in the thing; it is also in the one that is within me that can actually do the thing. So there has to be a joint belief system that exists, one that does not look at me just from my outer skin and say it's the skin that I'm doing it through, but it's also the one that says, oh, I can take the cap off of the thing that I'm hoping for. Like I said in the beginning, a lot of times we have a ceiling, and that ceiling was one that was given to us. So you take that ceiling off, and now you expand that beyond anything that you can ever imagine or have ever seen. And so what you'll find is that what you have hope in tends to grow and grow and grow over time. Maybe in my 20s it was here, my 30s it was here, my 40s it was here, my 50s it's here. So that's the thing. Like when you ask what role does it play, it plays the role. It is the role, right? Without it, there is no achieving of anything great.
Was it everybody? I thought we was waiting on Ro for some reason. Oh, you went first. My bad. My bad. Man, I'm right there with y'all. It plays it plays the role. Um, in fact, I do not believe that me myself, without not just my belief in the Most High, but my willingness to say I'm going to search the scriptures and allow that to teach me how to think, allow that to be the basis of how I see everything else around me. Did that mean that everything became positive from that day forth? No, but in the end, I knew that it was not in my hand. And that was a reassurance that I can I can let it go, even when it got me frustrated, even when I got angry, even when I wanted to fight about it. Like, you know what? It's gonna be all right. You know, he is gonna work out. He said this, he said that, and I use his word for that reassurance. That's the thing that reinforced the positive thought, you know. But I think the key was the positive thought had to come from there. So listen, man, time it don't feel like it, but when I think back on it, we had a really good conversation tonight. I definitely enjoyed it. I appreciate you brothers for holding me up during this conversation. And you in the chat. So with that said, our most bittersweet moment is our final thoughts. So here we go, Jen.
Stop negative thoughts fast. I don't know how fast that'll be. That'll be determined by you and your growth. I think first and foremost, you got to reframe your mind. You have to make it to where you change how you see yourself, not just in society, but in Him. And when you can change your mind, you'll stop thinking and rehashing on things that happened in the past, and you'll see that He has a future for you. And when you see that He has a future, you'll change not just your mind, but you'll change your talk. You'll change how you speak of yourself, how you speak about your circumstances, how you speak of everything and everyone around you. It'll start to change to the positive and lean away from the negative. And you'll see, man, I no longer have a taste for negativity. And you'll start to leave those things alone and walk away from them. So If there are three things, I can't tell you, but there are a number of things and steps that we can take to where we look at things through the positive lens and no longer the negative.
Had a really good conversation today. Really enjoyed all of the conversation and the engagement with the chat. So today's topic was entitled "Stop Negative Thoughts Fast: 3 Simple Steps to a Positive Mindset." So I got 3 simple steps to a positive mindset. So the first one is daily gratitude. Waking up and starting your day just being thankful for being able to get out of the bed or whatever situation you're in, being thankful that you have a situation to be in. Because some people, there are a lot of people out there who would trade places with you in a heartbeat. So start your day off with daily gratitude, whether that's meditating or whatever that may be. Also, start your day off with intention. Be intentional about what you have to do throughout that day. That helps you stay focused, and keeps you from a lot of distracting thoughts. When you're focused and you're dialed in and you're saying, "Hey, we're going to accomplish these things today," there's not a lot of time sometimes for distractions. And then the third thing is to speak life. And this goes back to, we kind of talked about some positive self-talk, and that positive self-talk um directly relates to the daily gratitude as well, and just being thankful for your day, because we know that, from the abundance of the heart the mouth speaks. So in order to have that positive self-talk to be able to come out, you need to first get back and making sure that you're doing the daily gratitude. So again, my 3 simple steps to a positive mindset is daily gratitude, start your day with intention, and speak life.
Very good conversation today. I'm going to keep mine simple. Um, Looking at these 3 steps, I love the ones that you just heard. I would say it like this: have a governance for your mindset. I will start there. Have something that governs the thoughts that you actually have. In a mind without governance is a mind that gets to roam freely. So start there and have a sense of governance for your mind. After you do that, identify where your thought limitations exist. In other words, if you have a ceiling on your thought, blow the roof off of it. Put yourself around a person that has the ability to challenge your limiting beliefs. And then from that point forward, make sure that your behavior lines up with what you say you believe. Because when it does not, I do not believe a word that comes out of your mouth. So you have to make sure that what you're thinking lines up with what you're doing. And that's the 3 simple steps for me.
So y'all heard my 3 steps in the conversation today. I tried my best to exhaust it, to make it to where it seems actionable. But something that I found actionable, right? And it says like this. It says, "Rejoice always in the Lord." And again, I say rejoice. Then let your moderation be known unto all men, right? For the Lord is at hand. Be careful for nothing. Don't be anxious for anything, but in everything by prayer and supplication. Uh, I, I apologize. But everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known unto God. And the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, shall keep your heart and minds through Christ. Now, finally, brethren, whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are honest, whatsoever things are just, whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are of good report. If there be any virtue, and if there be any praise, think on those things. I think too often we read that last verse that I read, but it's it's a total thinking process that was given to the Philippians in Philippians chapter 4. And so I action that entire that entire passage right there. And so I will go back over it and read it. Right. And first step is rejoice in the Lord always. Let that be the first thing that we do. We wake up, let's rejoice. For the Most High has given us another day. Let's rejoice. And that's the first step. And let's action through it. With that said, that's all I got for my final thoughts. Look, brothers, I can't say how much I thank y'all for I can't. Who they say? Crystal Everett. Hey, happy birthday, sister! Happy birthday, Crystal. And that shocked me. That surprised me. So I know it surprised you. I did not know today was your birthday, but man, everybody go ahead and shout out in the chat. Go ahead, shout out our sister Crystal Everett. She's always keeping us on point and keeping us abreast with what we got going on. I think she kind of helps this engine run. So go ahead and shout out in the chat with a happy birthdays and share some love with our sister. With that said, look, her and Sister Lisa Keys been in the chat letting us know what we got coming up. So let's keep going. We got something going this Saturday, correct, Coach? You want to share?
Hey, reframing the image of relationships tomorrow morning at 10:30. We unpacking 7 lies.
Ooh, 7 of them, not 7. 7. All right, he's from Georgia, so.
Ooh, TV. Can you give me one right now? I gotta wait to 10:30.
I'll tell you one right now.
Uh-huh.
The fact that you think I'm gonna tell you one of them right now.
Yeah. I like that one. That's a good one.
Yeah, that's a good one right there.
There you go. You got to tune in. Even I got to tune in, folks.
That boy good. But man, yeah, let's tune in. Let's tune in tomorrow. I'm ready to hear these seven lies. Y'all have a great rest of your evening, and love somebody. Tell someone you love them. Get you some praying before you get you some rest in, and wake up in the morning with rejoicing on your heart. And let's start. Even if you have a positive mindset or you believe you do, we can always get better at this thing. We can always get closer to the mark and share that light and that positivity and that love with someone else that they may see the love of God. That's really all I got. I love you. God bless y'all and have a great evening.